Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. Joining me today, I've got a very special guest. He's the head coach for Oberlin Swimming at Oberlin College, Alex De La Pena. Alex, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
First of all, let's start with Oberlin College. Tell me a little bit about the college itself and where you guys are at right now in the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic.
Sure. So we have a pretty unique setup with our academic year right now. We are in person with classes, and basically we have a academic calendar set up over a calendar year. So we have a fall, a spring, and a summer term. And then there's certain classes that will rotate off campus during those timeframes to de-densify campus, give the kids single dorms, and allow for additional social distancing space. So basically right now I have freshmen, sophomores, and seniors. My juniors are rotated off campus. Now they're not at home like twiddling their thumbs. They're, doing internships. They're doing, different things that the college has set up for them, which is great. So they have, that at their disposal. And then the next semester, the spring semester, is where our sophomores would rotate off campus. And then now we're also going to have a summer term where, our sophomores and juniors would be the only ones on campus because the seniors would have graduated. And then obviously, we have a whole new first year class coming in for the following fall. So it's a little bit of a different setup for the team dynamic purpose. We're kind of in phase one right now with our training, just in the middle of week 3. Today is an off day. So like our setup, I'm giving them off on Thursdays and Sundays. So we're training 5 days a week, and basically going 2 hours, 2.5 hours with each workout. And, it's been really good so far. They've been working really hard. Some kids were out of the water for 6 or 7 months. So it's been kind of an adjustment for them. But as far as COVID cases on campus, it's been great. We've had minimal cases. We have a site where it actually displays the amount of cases, and tests that have been actually placed, and then the amount of positive cases from those. So, in our initial round, we only had 5 positive cases with all the kids coming from all over the globe, all over the country, which is a great start. And then our most recent round, I think when I checked yesterday, we're at 0 with the most recent round. And each kid gets tested every 4 weeks automatically for COVID. And then if they're in a situation where, they become symptomatic themselves or through contact tracing, then they would go and get additional testing beyond just that once every 4 weeks. So that's kind of, where we're at with everything right now. We're halfway-ish through the semester. So they're hitting midterms. And so they're a little stressed with the academic side of things. And then we hit phase 2 of training starting next week. So we can go from basically only having 10 kids per workout to having up to 20. In this first 3 weeks have been crazy. My assistant and I have been coaching 6 to 10 hours a day, having to run all these multiple workouts because it has to be the same 10 or less kids practicing with the same exact group. And college courses and classes have all sorts of different schedules. So it's been good though. Kids have been really receptive to it. And I think just excited to have the opportunity to be back on campus, to be back training and have just a little bit of normalcy to life.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine the hours some of these coaches, club and college, are putting in, like you said, 6 to 10 hours on deck per day. It's a lot. But again, we are in extenuating circumstances. This is not the norm, and everyone's kind of adjusting to make it work. So kudos to you for being on deck that long, and kudos to you for getting your program back up and running. That's super cool, and that you guys are able to swim and kind of are able to make it work in different groups. So everyone's staying safe and staying in shape. What was it like for you, before the school year started? Did you have any athletes on campus over the summer? how are you staying busy on a day to day over the summer during this pandemic?
Sure, sure. So we're, more traditional liberal arts. So a lot of our kids, they're not on campus over the summer unless they're doing an internship or some sort of research with professors. And that's, I think, the great thing about our school is it's all undergrad. So they're able to do some phenomenal, I think, graduate level kind of work at an undergraduate, level, and do those kinds of things with the research. But by and large, a lot of kids go home over the summer. And so we encourage them to, obviously, this year was different, but whatever they could do was great. But in a normal year, it's, if you have a club team to have access to, that's great. I think a lot of Division III programs probably have a similar approach and philosophy, because we only have a certain amount of time we can work with them. It used to be 19 weeks, but now with kind of this COVID environment, it's changed to 114 days, which equates to 6 practices, a week for 19 weeks. But the nice thing with that is it provides more flexibility, because if we had like one practice day that was used, that whole week got wiped out, And so now it's like we just count the actual days. So like Thanksgiving week, as an example, like if I ran a workout just on that Monday, Tuesday, that whole week counted as one of those 19 weeks. So,
Oh,
so
wow.
typically
Yeah.
we ended that. But to get back to your original question, I mean, it's just recruiting like crazy. Even putting, I think, more effort into it than ever this summer, because we couldn't open campus back up until I think it was the end of June. Is when we opened campus back up for people to come in, and it's just exterior tours. And we're very fortunate that we were able to do that. A lot of schools out there didn't have any sort of tours, and still have like no campus visits or tours, permitted. And so we tried to take advantage of that opportunity as much as we could, even though it was just walking around in the exterior. But they were nice enough to grant me permission to go in the backside of our building and our athletic complex and let the recruits come in and see our pool, which we're very lucky to have, and recently renovated pool there 2 years ago, brand new. So it's a 10-lane, 25-yard facility now. It used to be a 6-lane, 25-yard with a kick-out well. But that pool, the old one, was ahead of its time. So we hosted the conference meet here up until the late 90s in a 6-lane pool with a separate well. And they hosted Division III nationals here twice in the late 70s and twice in the early 80s. And actually, my dad was a collegiate swimmer in the late 70s, early 80s, and he swam in that pool for Division III nationals. So yeah, keep myself busy though. Long story short, recruiting's been the main thing. And then just kind of trying to treat this like kind of like a sabbatical, like we really don't get those anymore. So it's researching, connecting with coaches, got to kind of, I know we all got kind of tired of like Zoom meetings over time, but, I tried to find coaches at schools similar to Oberlin and connect with them. And they were gracious enough to, meet with me and talk with me several times over the summer and just bounce ideas off of them. Hey, what are you doing? What's your school doing, with what is planning going forward, with the academic year? Because we were all kind of, hands up in the air. We didn't know what we were doing until I think midsummer, a lot of us. And so just trying to get ideas of what I guess peer schools were doing was incredibly helpful.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense, and I know I talked to quite a few coaches who were just trying to use that time to collaborate, to bounce ideas off each other. We've certainly almost everyone I've talked to has switched up their training in one way or another during this time, just because it's such a different set of circumstances than everyone is used to being in. Have you talk about you guys' training? How have you switched things up? Obviously, you mentioned groups of 10 has to be the same group of 10 every day. So you're running multiple workouts. I'm guessing, probably the same workout over the course of a day, but you're in phase 1 right now of your training. What's that looking like compared to maybe a normal phase 1 of last season?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we really work hard on trying to develop them as overall athletes. And so I feel like we do a little bit more with our weight and dryland programming than I think a lot of programs out there do. And, this kind of helped amplify that a little bit more. And, we talked about it a little bit, we're seeing some of these kids at meets, the inter squad meets and whatever is going on that, these club teams are able to post, putting up lifetime best times and things like that. And I think it's because these kids are doing ththings on land that they weren't normally doing and transitioning that into the pool. And, I had, a little conversation with Chris Ritter, and I know he's really busy right now with everything with his programming and what he's doing, but it's good stuff. And I think that was part of my philosophy as a coach, even before all this hit, was we were doing, Dryland and weights, 3, 4, 5 days a week, as part of our programming. And so now what we're doing just on a daily basis is, I don't know how many programs, do as much with this as we do, but like we stretch and before and after every single practice. Even if I could get 15, 20 more minutes in the water, to me, I want them to be healthy. And I was doing that before the pandemic. And now, again, kids being out of the water 6, 7 months, now coming back and getting back in the swing of it, just hammering them with yards isn't really going to be the most productive thing. And so we want them to get back in shape, but you got to be, I think, very careful in how you plan that. And so like day to day, it's, stretching and Dryland the first, 30 minutes or so of our day. And then we swim for about 90 minutes, give or take, depending, we're trying to increase volume a little bit with what we're doing within that time frame, because we all know as coaches, that's not an exorbitant amount of time per day. But and then we're stretching afterwards. And so sometimes we flip that a little bit depending on what we're doing, where if we go more like a quality-based kind of set, we'll have them stretch before, and then we'll just get them in and swim. But then we spend longer after that practice doing more mobility kind of work. We get them on the foam rollers, we walk them through some hip mobility, we walk them through some shoulder mobility type stuff. But I just think that's really important because they're sitting hunched pretty much all day. We all have the rounded swimmer shoulders and things like that. And we just are trying to, again, get those shoulders peeled back a little bit. The hips get really tight for a lot of them. And then, lower back pain can kind of stem from that too. So that just comes from sitting too. So we try to really work on just opening them up. And I think that's really good. And we've seen a lot of positive results with it. And right now, like I said, it's 5 days a week. And that's the schedule we're going to continue going forward. It's just this first session, we really had like them in organized groups on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because Tuesday, Thursday, their schedules were like completely different. So I couldn't keep the same group of kids together on a day-to-day thing. And then Saturday as well. Now we made Tuesday like an optional day, where they could come in and do individual sessions with us. So we could do that. And that's what we've been doing these first 3 weeks. But the next phase, next week, we can go up to 20 kids per workout. And so we'll go Monday, Tuesday, and then Thursday, Friday, as well as Saturday. So Wednesday will then be our off day. So that's kind of the setup that we have. And I don't know, it's just helping me kind of get some ideas going forward here. Maybe in a normal year, maybe we give them Wednesday as an off or recovery day. It's an incredibly taxing academic schedule here. I mean, Oberlin's a top 30 liberal arts school in the country. So, they're here to be students first. And, we regularly are academic All-American. The kids are out there producing really well in the classroom, and that's their main focus. But we also want to take, our swimming very seriously too. And it's trying to find that balance. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's what a lot of recruits ask me is, how do your student athletes balance their time? And I think people get that at the Division I level going all the way to Division III. Like, how do they balance things? And so, here, if I can give them an extra day to breathe, that might be more beneficial for us. And it might be more beneficial for, me and my assistant coaches as well, just to catch our breath in the middle of the week and then hit with a little bit more energy the back half of the week. So just trying to think about some different things going forward here. And I think trying to find the silver lining in the pandemic life is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Finding those silver linings, I think you mentioned, you're doing more mobility, more stretching, more dry land. Maybe not as much time in the pool, which I think a lot of people have opted for by necessity, but also now as we're starting to get more to pool time, kind of by design, they found out that might be a better solution, better fit for some of these swimmers. How do you feel like your athletes have reacted to this? Maybe a little less pool time, maybe a little more stretching. Not only you said you'd seen some results, as in, they look good in the water, but how do you feel like their demeanor, their candor has been affected by that as well?
Yeah, I think some of them that come from higher volume programs are a little bit more concerned. So I think that's one thing to try to get over that hump, so to speak, a little bit. But yeah, I think that they're all going to have their concerns because they all are set like, I have to be 2 hours in the water, right? And I need doubles and I need this and I need that. And I think the big thing we're all learning from being in this environment is, do we really need all those things? Right? Do we need to be doing as much? And maybe were we overtraining our kids? Were we overtraining them for so long? And I think there is meaning behind doing swim doubles, because in our biggest meets, what are we doing? Prelims and finals, 3, 4 days in a row. For those that are at the highest level, Olympic trials, the Olympics themselves, you're going over the course of a week. And how many swims are you doing? And so I think there's merit to it. In this environment, into a college rec center, I only wanted them coming in once a day, because I just thought that that's less, chance of contact and things of that nature. And we're not going actually up into the weight room for our Dryland. We're doing everything right on the pool deck. And, again, that's only our team touching those medicine balls and TRX trainers and everything else that we're doing, and wiping everything down, and, ourselves, and handling it ourselves. Our college is doing a phenomenal job across the board, cleaning and things like that. Our rec center through and through is keeping everything clean. But, you're having people from across campus touching the same dumbbell, barbell, things like that, from, again, different teams and non-athletes and things like that. So that's why, like, our team just came to a consensus of, this is what we're most comfortable with, and just keeping everything right on deck. So the kids, come in, we do a quick temperature check, we do a survey check with them for symptoms, and then they then get on deck, and then we go through our practice that way. So, but yeah, going back to what you were saying, I just think we can learn a lot from this. And I think, instead of just getting frustrated with what we can't do, it's, making the most of what we can actually do. And, going into a non-pandemic year, hopefully next year, um, you know, we're a place where I think we need to provide options for our kids, because Oberlin's a place where these kids love doing a lot of things really well. They overreach. So, because they're used to doing all these different things. And I want to give them the flexibility to do that, not just swim and see a classroom and that's it. They need to be involved in other things on campus. And I think that's a big thing here too. And even in this environment with social distancing and things like that, I wanted to give them that flexibility to do those things on campus, especially for our first years, and get more involved with things on campus as well, especially in the environment that we're in. Oberlin's always been really big, on I think the diversity and social justice front as well. And that's something that, our kids have been really big advocates on. I think our athletic department has done a phenomenal job with that too. And just something that, Oberlin's kind of always, I think, been there kind of ahead of the curve on a lot of these topics. And so that's something, we take a lot of pride in. We have a big election obviously coming up too, as well, here in a couple of weeks. So that's a big thing. What I'm seeing from a lot of programs across the country is phenomenal, seeing 100% voter registration from all these teams. And hopefully, we'll see some positive change here going forward, and, kind of take it from there.
Yeah, certainly hoping for some positive change moving forward, just, in the world, in the country, in regards to this pandemic. I guess a good way to wrap up our conversation might be, what changes do you think you might instill now that you have experimented with, again, by necessity, by design, experimented with this different style of training? Sounds like you've gotten some feedback from your athletes, and again, we all know those swimmers who want to do doubles, who want to get in 8K of practice, or 2 hours every day minimum. And it's that's not their favorite, obviously, to only be in for 90 minutes and to only have one a day. But do you moving forward, how do you see your style of training changing, maybe because of these circumstances?
Yeah. I mean, I guess my background, I've always been a big fan of Coach John Urbanchek and his work. And we use the color coded system here with what we do. I'm not completely sold on the ultra short race pace, training. I still think there's a lot of value and merit into, aerobic training and threshold training and things like that. Right. So we have certain days where we have those emphasis, on the energy systems that we want to focus on. But I think that, again, providing that kind of flexibility moving forward, I think is going to be important where, in a normal year, our core requirement is, going to be 6 water workouts a week, Monday through Saturday. And then we have 2 weight room and 2 Dryland sessions during that week. But, in talking with some of our kids and just getting feedback, we also offer some optional extra practices, twice per week. So they could come in and get some more water time that way if they choose to do so. And some optional Dryland and weight time as well for those that choose to do that. So I think it's, getting them what they need, but also trying to curb some of those kids a little bit that just like to train, and that's all I need to do. And, you got to catch your breath every now and again. Like, I think that in our sport, like when I coached, club, it was give the kids 4 weeks off between long course and short course season. And some people get up in arms about that, and vice versa, from short course to long course and long course to short course. Like, give them some time away from the pool. Like, I feel like that creates a positive itch that you got to scratch, because if it's just like, just take a week off and, whatever, I don't feel like it's appreciated quite as much. And sometimes, and it's a good problem to have if you have to kind of stiff arm kids away from the pool. Like, that tells us that you're doing something right. And so I think that's just something that we're working on with our culture. Like, we're trying to help them understand that a little bit better. And a break is okay. Like, it doesn't mean you have to sit on the couch and eat potato chips and do nothing, work on mobility, flexibility, do some yoga, do some cross training. That's fine. But I think that, just swim is kind of a means to an end without having those breaks in there and giving your body a chance to breathe. I mean, how many people have shoulder injuries and back injuries and things like that in our sport? Like, I just think that it's kind of accumulated because we just don't take breaks. And we were kind of forced to take a break with all this, and again, silver lining in it is like some positive things I think are gonna come from this in our sport, and hopefully open up the eyes for people a little bit more. It's helped me network with people a little bit more. I think that's important. Sometimes as coaches, we get on islands and think, it's tough to reach out for help sometimes, but I think sharing ideas is at, the core of what we need to be doing to make, our sport better. And, we're lucky that we're in Division 3, and Division 3 is, I feel, the safest of all the divisions right now. And I'm just hoping we don't see additional programs getting cut moving forward across all divisions, and, want to see our sport continue to do well at the NCAA level and provide opportunities for kids, beyond high school that want to pursue this opportunity to swim in college, whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3.
I couldn't agree with you more about the breaks for sure. And you had some very insightful things to say about growing our sport. Obviously, I would like to see that sport continue to grow. Programs getting cut is a real threat, as we've seen on several occasions in the last few months. But hopefully, we can get through this as a community. Alex, any parting thoughts just on the next couple weeks, couple months, in terms of what's on the docket for Oberlin, and what you're thinking about just in general in swimming moving forward?
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's recruit right now. So it's, we're a month out from our early decision 1 deadline. So here we have multiple application deadlines for our school. And so there's early decision 1, which is November 15th, early decision 2, which is January 2nd. And then we have a regular decision, which is January 15th. Now, since we're in Division 3, obviously there's no athletic scholarships. There's no NLI. So for us, early decision is, a more surefire way to ensure that, we're going to have people coming in, next year, because it's binding. In schools similar to Oberlin, we'll have, early decision also. Regular decision is not binding. And so people can apply through that route as well. It's just, they have to wait a little bit longer to hear back, and keeps us kind of on pins and needles until basically the end of March going through the end of April. They have about 4 weeks to decide before May 1st to put deposits down. So we have a great group, applying so far. It's great to see that. It's been tough for them going through this recruiting process, some of them sight unseen, and doing all they can through virtual visits and phone calls and Zoom meetings. And it's a lot. Like, I give these kids, all sorts of credit for fighting through this the best way that they can and still chasing their dream to swim in college and get a really high quality education. And to do that all without doing things in person, no official visits or anything like that, makes it tough. It makes it really tough. So, I mean, that's, obviously a big thing for us, but what's right in front of us with our current student athletes, like being sure that they stay healthy, they stay safe. And that's, my top priority. We're going through basically the weekend before Thanksgiving, and then we'll do a virtual midseason invite at that point. We'll have 2 smaller virtual meets before that. We'll do a drop taper, see what they can do. And then they're going to go remote the last 3 weeks of the semester. So they'll go home for about 6 weeks and then return for the second semester beginning of January. So, it's just continuing to help them whatever way that we can, work really hard. And, our administration, board of trustees, everybody here has just been busting their tail to really try to produce a positive experience for these kids in the middle of a pandemic, which presents its challenges for sure. But to be able to have in-person classes, minimal COVID cases on campus, it's been a great success for Oberlin so far. And, I think just looking across the board, I think a lot of schools, smaller schools, have seen a lot of success. We're fortunate to have a smaller enrollment, which I think helps us with a little bit more control on things, which is positive, especially in this environment, because, unfortunately, at the beginning of all this, you see, like Chapel Hill and schools like that, unfortunately had to go remote all of a sudden, because how are they supposed to control thousands and thousands and thousands of students? We've got, at full enrollment, we're about 3,000 students here. Right now we're about 2,000 on campus. And so it provides, an opportunity there. And we're fortunate we have a great music conservatory here on campus, and those students are trying to do their thing, and the School of Arts and Sciences as well. So sometimes people get that confused and think they all have to do music if they go to Oberlin. It's not the case. It's kind of 2 rooms under 1 roof, if I could describe it in any better way there. But no, man, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. I greatly appreciate it. Yeah, we're just very lucky to be doing what we're doing and, take this opportunity and make the most of it for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on, Alex. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
No problem.
It's good to hear your perspective. Good to hear that from a smaller school, and to hear that a smaller school is doing all right. And yeah, again, thanks for coming on.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.